Welcome to Attention Talk Video, where we pay attention to attention. Now, here's your host, Jeff Copper.
Hi, I'm ADHD and Attention Coach Jeff Copper. Here to talk to you today about bias and this an observation. This is an interesting one. The human experience has lots of bias. We tend to judge the world through the lens of our own experience. That's why neurotypicals struggle with really understanding ADHD, because they don't know what it's like to have ADHD. We also have what we call tangibility bias. We favor things that are tangible and we dismiss what's abstract. And so it's interesting to me, and by the way, I really appreciate all the comments, particularly when people are like, oh my God, this guy gets it, because like a lot of my content is different from everybody else's. This is going to help kind of illustrate why. Everybody else is looking at kind of what they see, but often what they're looking at is not really kind of what's happening. So many years ago, I'm in Tampa, Florida, and it's not uncommon. I get calls in December of parents because their freshman student went off to college at a local university or college down here, and they're on academic probation because they're off on their own. So this one woman and her son, I go meet them at Starbucks one time, and I'm sitting there pretty quickly. I could tell this kid like talks a lot. And then somewhere in the point in line, mom mentions that he has a time coach at school. And I flippantly said, I bet you it works pretty well when he's with the time coach. And it doesn't when he's not. And she looked at me in surprise, like as if to say, how did you know that? And I go, well, because when you're managing time, you're looking at planners and alarms and all that type of stuff. That's what's tangible. And I said, what's working isn't that, it's the conversation that he's having with the time coach. In other words, when he's not actually engaged, he's not thinking. And this is kind of difficult for a lot of people to understand, is you think that you're thinking about time, but you're not. It's when you're actually having the conversation. With ADHD, that conversation is actually got you paying attention to it. That's what's working, not the task, the tool. Again, most people don't see this because of tangibility bias. We favor the thing that we can see and we dismiss what we can't see. And she was just kind of blown away, and as if to say, how does he manage time? I'm like, well, just call you up every morning or have his roommate talk to him about what he's going to do that day. Another example is people routinely tell me, oh my God, I get things done. It's the deadline. It's the deadline. And I'm like, no, that's what's tangible. What I do is I always say, okay, let's talk about this because, and by the way, this does not apply. If you do not make deadlines, this doesn't apply. But if you make deadlines, think about it like this. You have to regress to whatever is the most efficient at the deadline to get it done. So that's theoretically, like water runs down because it's a path of least resistance. Against deadline, you've got to do it in the most efficient way. So this is a true story. It's a tangible story. I'm talking to an individual who's telling me it's a deadline. I'm like, no, tell me. And I'm asking questions like, what's going on? What's going on? It's really hard to get people to answer that question because they're oblivious and they're just human being likes to take shortcuts. So finally, this person's just having this discussion, and then all of a sudden, basically says, "Well, when it gets to be crunch time, I end up start crying. And I call my mother." And I go, bingo. And she's like, no, you're talking. And as I began to suggest that what you're doing is you start to talk about what you're doing with your mother to get some clarity, all of a sudden we go back in history and there's this incredible pattern that's taking place. At a deadline, when the pressure's on, burst out into tears, go call mom, start talking out loud through the problem with guidance from mother. Again, this is tangibility bias. We don't recognize that because we can't touch it, see it, or smell it. This is a lot in people with ADHD lives. There's Andy Rogers had a quote that I really like. ADHD is amplified or muted based off of the environment. It's a lot of intangible stuff that's kind of going on. It's a lot of those conversations. And so anyway, I'm hoping to produce a lot more on this in the coming weeks. I've said it before, but I'm just better to articulate it right now. So anyway, if you're a new subscriber, hit the subscribe button. If you're an existing follower, comments, thoughts, share me what's going on. Also, again, everybody, if you could just hit like, just do anything in the comments to kind of keep me above the fold. I'm not a TikTok person. I'm not here to give you the easy answers. I'm trying to give you what I think is the real answers. And so the more engagement you can give me, even if you don't want to put some stuff on there, I'd be grateful. So with that, we hope you've enjoyed this edition of Attention Talk Video. Take care.